the one thing I want you guys to be sensitive about is where you put your foot, like what direction, where is it pointing? Because you don't want your feet to be straight, like this guy that looks really boring. They should be out a little bit or something interesting. You could even spread toes or do something interesting rather than just 2 feet facing forward. It's actually kind of hard to stand that way, especially when your legs are apart like this. Your feet will naturally go their own way. So the other one could be going this way, and the other one could be going like that. I know that's not finished, by the way. But it'd be kind of like that. Okay, so in this case, I'm doing just this. Now, the one thing I could show you is how fast that was. That was just the shoe shape. Okay, that gives you at least the shape of the foot. When I look at this, I could see how thin it needs to be. And the best thing I could show you is work from outside in. So I'm going to occasionally rotate this so everybody can see. Oops, let me see. Let me kick it to you, please. Thank you so much. Now, I already put a little bit of Vaseline on here, so this is kind of done. So you didn't miss a step. That's really basic. You always start with a little Vaseline. The thing that I could do now is take any kind of gouging tool, and anything that you might have is going to work out fine. This is a gouger. If you want basically like a hairpin or something like that, or even a paper clip, you could use the same thing. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have anything fancy, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start actually shaping the foot. There's an arch, and the skeletal arch is really high. You know, your foot might be arched pretty high, but your skeletal foot is arched even more because it's all bony. So I'm going to try to get the right shape exteriorly. So the outside shape, it's narrow. The heel is actually pretty small. Okay, it's not that big. It's almost like a little doorknob. So I'm just going to clip, 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 and you have everything right in front of you. That's the thing that I'm trying to reiterate, is that this is actual size. All of these little feet are actual size. So you can look at it and see that your heel's getting too big, too monstrous, too small, too whatever. Okay, so please remember that I tried the best I could. And remember, your big handouts have the same thing. So there is the beginning of a pretty good foot. Okay, I'm going to put more ground behind it. But the foot is actually this, and this is the ground underneath it. I'm going to remind you that one of the most important things about the foot is going to be the tuberosity. So the tuberosity of the fifth metatarsal is right here, and you can actually start seeing the shape of that foot. The toes go from... Now, what I do is, it's called the Italian or Roman foot. There's 2 kinds of feet and arch. Only 2 feet. The Italian foot is traditionally like the toes are like fingers. They're longer than the big toe. Like the second toe is always longer than the big toe, sometimes even the third toe. Okay, that's called the Italian foot. You look at Michelangelo's, David, you look at any Italian painting sculpture, and they're like that. The other is the Egyptian foot, and that is with the big toe being the biggest, and everything kind of goes in succession like that. So because I like the Italian masters, I do basically the Italian foot, so it's going to have longer toes than usual. And for this scale, it actually works out pretty nicely. Okay, so you can see that there's the tarsal, metatarsal articulation. Remember that little gem? And remember that there's 3 segments of the foot. Basically the heel area or the ankle area, the top of the foot, and the toes. So now you have the toes, you have the top of the foot, and this is the best way I can show you how to do all this, is I'm basically working from the outside in. So you can see that I have the basic shape. Do you see how it doesn't necessarily have to take that much time? If you work the way I'm telling you, just think of the shape of it first, because that way you already have basically all the dimensions, the length, the width, and from this point you should be able to see, oh man, my foot is looking like a duck, it's going to be big, it's going to be this. The other thing to watch for is what I call the duck foot. Many of you, no matter how many times I tell you this right now not to do it, some of you are going to do it anyway. Sometimes just out of spite. But I can tell the difference. Is a lot of you are going to do a foot that basically from that wire is going to be really flat like this. And that's the duck foot, where there's no ramp. So remember to ramp up. Have it ramp up. Remember I start with that big shoe shape? It was basically like a ramp, because it's easier for me to reduce rather than adding. So right now there's no adding to this, there's reduction. I'm carving away so I get the basic shape, because once I get the basic shape, this is probably the easiest way I could show you how to do this foot now. Okay, basic shape. Don't want to have you think I did anything that you didn't see. Basic shape. The next thing, I know you guys can draw well, so I'm going to have you guys think about this. Think about the fact that you might not be sculptors, but you all know how to draw. If I gave you a pencil and put a piece of paper here and I told you just draw this, actual size, you take that pencil and you just kind of like copy it. Before you know it, you have the little foot. I'm asking you to do the same thing but with a needle. The easiest thing I can show you now is to take this piece of paper, because that's actual size. You know where the wire is. That's this demarcation, this little demarcation, that little demarcation is there. That means that this area is going to be easy for me to draw because it's right next to it. I don't care if you even know what these things are. It's an object and you can draw it. So I'm looking at that as an object, not as, you know, this is the talus bone or this or that. I'm just looking at that because I know that you're not going to be able to know what each one of those are right now. I even have to look because those are things I don't have totally memorized. Talk about these because they're not that important to me except as a whole. You can see the names of them because this navicular bone, for instance, on the inside of your arch, you have a bone that you can feel on your arch. And some of you could actually see it. It's very bony. Are you going to leave those there too? The little no, I want you to. I was just kidding. Yeah, forget them there. I like little snacks. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that. I'm just going to draw that. I'm just going to draw a little arc because that's what I see. A little arc and a little line like this. Really don't think too much. Just copy. And also, what you need to be good at as artists, and you know, it's one of those things that the nice thing about being with artists is you guys already have pretty good perception. If you have an object and it's this big, don't make it like this big. Make it the same exact size. So you're looking at it and you're really working hard to make sure that you are looking at the same size because it's the same size object. And I'm just drawing it. What I just drew is this navicular bone right in there. Then there's 3 in front of it because I could count them. You don't even have to know what they are. You just have to copy them. Damn it. Now, did anybody get the clay softener? Because if you didn't, it's okay because I have some. The only thing I ask you guys to get is like a little brush. Like I have a little brush right here, and it has clay softener on it, a little bit. And I'm going to show you what you do with the clay softener. Some places aren't carrying clay softener any longer because they don't know what to do with it. They don't know what it's really used for. But it's used for sculpting. Now, I'm going to eliminate some of this stuff because I could see that with these little diagrams. There. So now you have these little kind of rocky, silly looking things. They don't look like much, but there is, Brenda, there are little jars. See that right there where your hands are? And one of them says, I think, softener. Do you see that? I think it says clay softener. Ooh, yeah, that's it. Fabulous. Thank you. That's it. And it's very oily. I mean, look at it. It's sealed up and it still comes through. That's how like oily this stuff is. As a matter of fact, I don't even need to open the jar. Now, this has clay softener on it. You can tell because it's making me kind of a little oily. Now, what you do is you basically go inside. Do you see how like it's actually cleaning up inside those rocks? I couldn't go in there very well with a tool, but this actually is softening up those little rocks, making them rounded. It's beautiful. It's a really neat way to sculpt. What you need to do is just get some old little brush like this, bring it here, dip it in the clay softener. It's going to stay oily for a long time, and every time you want, you could just kind of dip it in there. Or you could get a little container, and I'll squirt some out for you because I have a little bottle of it. I buy these little containers, those little plastic containers anywhere. You know, film canister, little film things, open it up, I'll squirt some in there, and you could use this at home. But you can see that it actually sculpts. Okay, now I'm going to try to do this quickly. The next thing I'm going to do